I'm Vladimir Dutier. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has called for the Confederate battle flag to be removed from the state's capital. Following last Wednesday's church shooting, which killed 9 people, there have been renewed demands to take down the controversial symbol, which critics have called a symbol of intolerance. Governor Haley said the flag does not represent the state's future, and it is time to remove it.
For many people in our state, the flag stands for traditions that are noble. Traditions of history, of heritage, and of ancestry. The hate-filled murderer who massacred our brothers and sisters in Charleston has a sick and twisted view of the flag. In no way does he reflect the people in our state who respect and in many ways revere it. 15 years ago, after much contentious debate, South Carolina came together in a bipartisan way to move the flag from atop the Capitol dome. Today, we are here in a moment of unity in our state, without ill will, to say it's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds. 150 years after the end of the Civil War, the time has come. There will be some in our state who see this as a sad moment. I respect that. But know this, for good and for bad, whether it is on the State House grounds or in a museum, the flag will always be a part of the soil of South Carolina. But this is a moment in which we can say that that flag, while an integral part of our past, does not represent the future of our great state.
Well, following the governor's announcement, we spoke to Arianna Diaz, who is covering the controversy in Charleston, South Carolina.
As you saw, I'm sure, the State House erupted in applause when the governor said the words that she would support the flag being removed from State House grounds. But she did not take any questions. She hugged and shook hands with many of the officials that were behind her and quickly left the room. She has come out before and said that she doesn't think this is really an issue. When she was campaigning in the past, she said that she didn't think the flag hurt South Carolina. But it took an event like this for her to reconsider. Also with her were Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, who, as recently as this weekend, said that he thought that the flag had a right to be on state grounds. He said it's something that the State House and legislators have supported. And that's really the bottom line. It's eventually up to state legislators. The governor can call a special session, just like she has, but it will require the vote of 2/3 of state legislators to actually remove the flag.
Yeah, Arianna, it was interesting. The governor pointed out that South Carolina, she said, matters of race in South Carolina has had a very tough history, and she said that everybody knows that, but she pointed out that as a minority female who was elected twice, Tim Scott elected, the only one of only 2 African Americans serving in the Senate, that South Carolina has changed the most and for the better, she pointed out. What are some of the people there who were demanding that this flag be taken down saying to you?
I spoke to a state representative today who said that the governor, using herself as an example of progress, considering that she's a minority, considering that she's a woman, is really not strong enough. He said that racism is alive and well and growing in South Carolina, and all of the focus on the flag is really misplaced and overlooking the deeper issues.
And Arianna, let's just get a sense of what others are saying. Or perhaps you've spoken to people who say, look, we understand that there are some people who take it to mean racism. We understand that the suspect in that brutal, horrific shooting last week may have also had notions of using this flag. But for us, it represents something that is noble, as the governor called it, and tied to our historical past. What are they saying?
There is a strong contingent that believes that, Vlad. We interviewed a person who was a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. His ancestors fought and died in the war between the states, as they call it here, the Civil War. And he said the flag has nothing to do with hatred. It has something, it only represents heritage and history and is something that's seen to honor those who sacrificed in the Civil War. He thinks that everyone is sweeping everything together and, in a sense, wrapping in the same cloth, if you will, those who promote hatred and those who represent the Confederate flag.
Yeah, it's interesting, Arianna. I note that a lot of this, in the wake of this horrific shooting, this demand for the flag to come down started on social media, started to spread. People started to protest out there in South Carolina. The actor Wendell Pierce, who you remember played a character on The Wire, he tweeted, "The Nazis are responsible for the Autobahn and advancing rocket science. Do we fly the Nazi flag to remember that heritage?" The point, I guess, being that, yes, there may be ties to history, there may be ties to heritage, but as in many cases in the United States, some of those things belong in museums. And so it is interesting that, that this gentleman or this person that you spoke to from that organization feels that way.
And a lot of people who support the flag feel that there's going to be a domino effect. They think, okay, well, first it's the flag. Then are you going to put the entire statue that's a memorial into a museum? Why not put the State House into a museum, is what the gentleman told me today. And he thinks it's a slippery slope.
So
and what upsets them is that the history of their ancestors may be forgotten, but clearly there are a lot of people who are offended by the flag and very happy with today's news.
And Arianna, was this I mean, you pointed out rightfully that the governor, up until even this weekend on Friday, she spoke to CBS this morning, she seemed to be shying away from it. Lindsey Graham, as you pointed out, sort of said, he sort of punted it and said that this was something that should remain in South Carolina. What do you think in just the last 48, 72 hours or so has changed?
It really seems to be like there's just been a wave of opposition against the flag. And I think in part some of the officials don't want the focus to be on the flag. They want to keep the focus on the victims' families. And so this is a way to finally perhaps provide an avenue to end this debate about the flag. Again, the governor can't call for its removal. There aren't even pulleys on the flagpole, so it can't be lowered at all. What needs to happen is if 2/3 of the legislature vote, it can be taken down. But I think that the opposition grew too loud, perhaps, for it to be ignored, and they didn't want it distracting from the mourning in the state.
Also this afternoon, the White House announced that President Obama and Vice President Biden will travel to South Carolina on Friday to attend the funeral of Clemente Pinckney. The senior pastor at Emmanuel AME Church was an early political supporter of the president's. The two had met several times during the 2008 campaign.